everybody, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I'm here with another one of my end of 2019 videos. Yes, I realize it's midway to the end of January, but I still have another video for you. Today I'm talking about my most disappointing reads of 2019. Let's jump right into it. So for me, these are not necessarily like all books that I hated. I do have a couple of DNFs and then a couple of other honorable mentions and also a trend that I noticed that I want to talk to you guys about. But these are all of the books in 2019 that just let me down. I'm bummed about them. I had high hopes or I had heard buzz and I've been excited about them and then they just didn't follow through. So the first thing that I'm going to discuss are my DNFs, and I do have two of those for 2019. 2020 is turning out to be a much different kind of year because it is only the 18th and I already have two DNFs, so I am not being stingy with them this year. The first one is I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. This one is by Gilly Siegel and Kimberly Jones. I think I talked about in a reading wrap-up vlog, but this one I DNF'd because it was very fat phobic. There was a lot of body shaming for women. Found the content to be very problematic. I did not like the body shaming and the fat shaming that took place in this. I also really did not like the main love interest of one of the characters who was considerably older and did not treat women nicely, and then that main character then treated her friend like crap because the guy did, and it was kind of garbage. So I DNF'd that one. My other DNF is one that I don't have in physical copy, and that is Never Contented Things by somebody whose name I don't remember. I had an e-arc of this on NetGalley, and it was all of my words that should have made sense. Like, it was fae, and it was not necessarily portal. It was kind of like our world fae, but dark fae, and I was like here for it. And then there was a very strange foster sibling sexual relationship, sexual tension. It was not okay. The foster brother was younger, I think considerably, by at least a couple of years, than the main character, who is a girl, wanted his sister. It was really disconcerting. And I did hear from somebody who had finished it that there was like a potential almost sex scene between them. I was just really creeped out by it. I couldn't get down with it. Really, really bothered me. There was diversity in it that could have made it really, really cool. There was a lot of, I'm actually saying sister and brother, but I think that there was some gender queer characters in it. If I'm not mistaken, it was a very long time ago. I really disliked the book and I couldn't get through the galley of it. I just couldn't read it. If you haven't noticed, my two DNFs were actually arcs that I read. You're gonna see a trend. I have another stack of books right here. All of these are arcs. All of these are arc copies for books. You can see they're all tabbed and annotated. I annotated every single one of these books. I gave them their best shot. I really, really tried. They were arcs that I was really excited about, but 2019 was a year of a lot of arc reading for me, and a lot of them fell flat from where I wanted them to be, which was really disappointing and really, really difficult. And I think out of all of the books that I have on this list, only two of them I read after the release date. Everything else was an arc. Don't really know that I would have been able to avoid a disappointing read. Like, they're not even arcs that weren't on my radar. They were ones I was really excited about. So what are you gonna do? I want to point out that the rest of these are like, I think 3-star reads. I think all of the rest of these are 3-star with the exception of one book that was a 1-star. The rest of these are all perfectly fine books. They just let me down. So we're gonna talk about the 1-star, and that's The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This one is, well, in truth, it is a murder mystery in historical New Orleans. However, it was pitched as the resurgence of vampires. I said in my review of this, when I talked about it in my reading vlog, that vampires are not even mentioned until page like 270 something. There are on-page vampires, as in there are murders that you can attribute to vampires. However, there's no mention of them. There's no focus on them until much, much later in the book. Do you know that it's a vampire killing these people? Yeah, sure, you can figure that one out. However, there's no actual discussion about vampires or interaction with them at all throughout this book. it made me bonkers, because really this turned into a marketing disaster. Had I known that this was a historical look at New Orleans with a murder mystery and a mild romance subplot, I would have never picked this up. I am not somebody who's enamored with New Orleans at all. Doesn't do anything for me. I don't like historical fiction. I would not have read this. I read this because it was supposed to be the resurgence of vampires. Everybody was really hyped for it. So that's why this super didn't work for me. Didn't love the characters, didn't love the plot twist at the end, don't really like anything about this. It was very slow, it was very plotting. I wasn't engaged in the mystery at all. I wasn't intrigued by the characters. There was one character, Odette, I think, gender fluid, sexuality fluid. I really, really, really liked her character. Other than that, this was a whole hot mess for me. So this was a 1-star read. And again, not because it was an arc, just because it was a straight up miss. So I'm not blaming this on arc reading. It's just, it is what it is, guys. Next up was There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. This one is one that I think has a lot of potential. I can see the potential there in her writing, but something about the plot really fell flat for me. There were specific characters whose storylines I resonated with more than others, and there are subplots and sub-storylines that kind of weave in that I can actually get behind. But for the most part, I wasn't shipping ships. I wasn't really invested in the world. This one follows people who have like skills and gifts, and that is not allowed anymore. And it's just a convoluted multi-character POV book that doesn't really quite weave together the way that I wanted it to. I don't believe it's a standalone. I'm pretty sure there are more in this series. In fact, I'm sure that there are. I don't know that I'm going to be continuing unless I can maybe get an audiobook. I don't think I'm going to be reading it anytime particularly soon. So this is one that was really, really hyped at BEA. And the author was there talking about it, and a lot of people were really buzzing about it. I was really excited to get it and read it, and it just didn't work out for me the way that I wanted it to. What are you gonna do? Similarly, we've got Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Young, and I really enjoyed Girls of Paper and Fire, which is the first book. This is a sequel, and I thought that I was gonna really love this one because I think I 4-starred Girls of Paper and Fire, and I had high hopes for the way that this one was gonna continue and the character growth that we were going to get. What we ended up getting was middle book syndrome with a plot that just kind of meandered around. Do explore the world a little bit more, but not in a way that I think really fleshed it out. Do have some characters that we get to know in this one more that I really, really loved, but again, they're side characters. I don't love the main ship. I started to fall out of love with that in this book as opposed to the first book. I really didn't like the character dynamic that was happening there and some of the subversive things that were happening. So I really fell in love with side characters, and again, side characters are not going to be something that carry a story for me. I want to care about the main characters, and I just started to resent anytime I wasn't with specific side characters, which is not fun. That's not what you want when you're reading a book. So this was a letdown for me. What we do get in this, though, is fantastic treatment of PTSD and trauma and care post-trauma for sexual assault, rape, and victims of sexual violence. And we see the way that you can manifest that in very, very different ways. I think it was very healthy discussions about that, and I appreciate that, and I can see the merit in that. It's just that the rest of the book really fell apart for me. It was a 3-star read. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't great. Then we have another sequel that I'm going to talk about. This one was, I forget when I read this. I read Bane by Claire Legrand, and this is the sequel to Furyborn. I 5-starred Furyborn. I know it was very polarizing. Not everybody loved it. I really did. We follow a dual timeline with Brielle and Elena, and one is the Sun Queen, one is the Blood Queen. We're following their different timelines, their different lovers, their different relationships, their different family dynamics. And it's really richly woven. There's a lot that goes into this world building, and I was all in. This is not a short book. This is almost 600 pages, 587 pages. I read the whole damn thing. I annotated it. I can genuinely tell you that I was so pissed off at this book. I don't know where book 3 will go, and I am certain I will still read it. I gave this 3 stars, I think, but like, it was an angry 3 stars. Know I love Shay Earnshaw. This is her sophomore novel after The Wicked Deep, and it is not related at all. They're completely different. I have multiple copies of this book, and I really am excited to see what the finished copy looks like, because I've heard that there are changes between the art copy and the finished copy. I don't know if I would have loved this story if I went into it for the first time with the finished copy as opposed to the art copy, but this is one that I got early. This was the first book that I acquired at BEA. It really let me down. The atmosphere in this is fantastic as always, but the repetition in this writing was smack you over the head obnoxious. There were multiple references to a family heirloom ring. There were multiple, I mean, more than I can count, about the fact that these walker witches are the only ones that can walk into these woods. They're the only ones safe in these woods, and there are certain precautions that you need to take. There were certain themes and statements that were repeated continuously throughout the book so many times that I could not stand it. The plot twist was not a plot twist to me. The world that we're living in is this very rustic one. We're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but then as isolated as she is and her neighbors are, there's like a current modern day camp for boys that's right across the street. Or like the lake, which kind of felt like a weird divide. I don't watch M. Night Shyamalan, but like that, The Village, right? Where like one's stuck back in time and then the rest of the world's just fine. Felt very like that. It felt very divided. Again, Shay writes fantastic atmospheric novels, and I can see the kind of magic that she tried to weave into this. And it is based off of some lore or folk tale that I don't know where it comes from. Really fell flat for me in terms of character and plot. Atmosphere, 10 out of 10. Writing style, 10 out of 10. Actual plot and development of characters, nah, this isn't it. I do want to eventually read the finished copy and see what's different. Hopefully, compared to my annotations, I see changes that actually make the story better, because I know people that have read the finished copy and really enjoyed it. It didn't work for me. Then we have a book that I still have somewhere on my shelves. I can't find it for the life of me, and that is Alien Echo by Myra Grant. This is a YA alien novel by Myra Grant, who is also Shauna McGuire. I have been trying to read her backlist. I was really excited to get to this book and excited for a sci-fi from her that was young adult, because Myra Grant typically writes adult fantasy or sci-fi or medical sci-fis. This one was a miss. I 3-starred that one as well. Apparently, post reading it, I learned that it is a part of, like, I think the actual Alien movie franchise world. I don't know. Apparently, it's a book set in a larger Cosmere that's already established that she just wanted to be a part of. People that know it already have a basis for going into this story. I did not have that basis. The story fell apart for me. I like her writing style in general, but the plot fell apart for me. Again, the characters were not ones that I actually really ended up caring for, and so it was a meh. It was a meh read, where I'm used to Shauna McGuire and Myra Grant being like mind-blowing authors, where they, you know, they write in a way that just fascinates me. They write these worlds and these situations that are just like beyond what I can imagine. I think constricted to wanting to be a part of a world that already existed kept her from really doing what I love when she writes. This one just didn't feel the same. It didn't have the same vibe to it. Hi guys, I'm back because I just got done filming my disappointing reads video and realized that my footage was corrupt. So I'm gonna refilm a couple of things, so excuse me if my clips are a little bit wonky. I wanted to keep talking a little bit more about Bane. One of the reasons that I really don't like this particular book is because I love the world. I love what Claire has set up in this world, and I still really respect the amount of work and time and energy that goes into making a book like this and a series like this, woven the way that it is. But the character decisions that take place in this book make no freaking sense. And if your goal is to set up a book 3 where things take a different turn, then that's one thing. But characters make decisions and their arcs just shoot so fucking far left or right that it doesn't make sense, and it's very off-putting as a reader to see a character make decisions that are so off-brand for them, and it makes me feel unsettled in a bad way. It makes me not understand exactly where the first book led up to, and it doesn't give me confidence in the third one. I do want to continue, but I'm just really, really upset with the character decisions that took place, and I don't think that they were wisely done or smartly done to keep us interested in book 3, because at this point, I don't care about the characters, and I really, really should, but based on their actions in this book, I just don't anymore. Also, at the time that the footage started to corrupt, I was talking about Wilder Girls by Rory Power, and that one fell apart for me for a couple of reasons. I realized I'm not a huge fan of body horror, and I'm not really opposed to it if it serves a purpose, but I don't think it serves a purpose within this story. For some people, this book totally worked. For me, I did not like the ending. I did not like the overall message that was revealed with the ending. I feel like so much of it fell apart. So much of it was unbelievable on this island of girls, and the way that they're treated by the government and by the people that are there to run the school. None of it kind of came together for me. The diversity or the female-female relationship and some of the stuff that was supposed to be kind of discussed within the story that I'd heard as buzz for the story were so subplot points that they were barely there. And in the end, the components of it didn't work for me. The writing was decent. It's just that the overall story did not work for me personally, but I completely understand why it's somebody's taste. It's just not mine. So that was disappointing just because I wanted to love it more than I did. I wanted to talk about the arc of Reverie by Brian LaSala. This one is one that I did not get at BookCon or BEA. This one was sent to me by the publisher after the fact because people started talking about it. And the reason why people started talking about this was actually because Ryan himself on social media is fantastic, and he's a lot of fun to follow and to keep up with. And I think that he really created a lot of hype for the book because of him and his personality. And I was into this, right? Like, we have a mentor who is a drag queen. We have a lot of diversity. But essentially, our main character wakes up and he has no memory of certain events, but then things start to like supersede and layer over his realities. And basically we find out that there are these things called reveries, which are the physical manifestation of people's deepest, darkest desires and dreams, sometimes nightmares. And the town and all the people get sucked into these reveries, and then there's a group of kids who are tasked with kind of dispelling them so that their actual realities are not ruined. And Ryan spends a really long time describing these reveries and describing these worlds and the complex way in which they work. And then the way that the kids solve it it's so Scooby-Doo. It's so ridiculous. It's like the equivalent of a nose wrinkle in Bewitched, and then like everything's fine. Even though the setup for it was like super long and involved, it's like, okay, well now we need this to be done and we don't know how we should have it finish up. So it's just like, we're good and it's done. A ton of potential, really great writing style, but it just really did not work for me plot-wise at all. Daisy Jones and the Six is one that I read in ARC format on NetGalley. So I read an e-ARC and I DNF'd it. I still stand by the fact that I cannot stand the physical format of Daisy Jones and the Six. For me personally as a reader, reading those really, really short interview style clippets do not let me engage and get invested in characters. I could not stand that book in a physical format. It drove me bonkers. However, after it released, I was able to listen to the audiobook, and the audiobook was great. I still don't think it's a 5-star read. It's probably a 4-star read. I gave it 3 stars because I can't stand the idea that a book exists out there that really only works, at least for me personally, in audiobook format. A book should be able to stand on its own in a physical format as well, and it doesn't for me. I could not give that above a 3-star when I DNF'd the book because the physical format didn't work for me that much. Last but not least is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the conclusion to the Folk of the Air series, that is The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. Do I have 3 copies of this book? Yes. Do I still love this series as a whole? Absolutely. Do I still love the characters? Yes. But this book was a mess. I cannot stand what happened in this book in terms of how quickly it wrapped up, the fact that things that should have occurred on page do not, the fact that characters make decisions and treat one another in ways that is unprecedented in prior books. There's so much angst and so much intrigue and so much drama built into the first 2 books. And then this one is like sitting down to fucking high tea and everything's civil and like lovely. And you're like, what the hell just happened? I just don't understand the tone of this and the way that this concluded. I still love the writing style. I still love the characters, and I still loved the reading experience, but I cannot in good conscience give this anything above a 3-star. 8 was one of the most disappointing conclusions to a trilogy that had so much potential that I've ever read. I really am upset with the injustice that was done to the characters and their arcs and their relationships, because it just isn't believable. I think you can probably weigh this one however you want it. Some people still give it 5 stars because they're nostalgic about the series, or they genuinely didn't see any issues with it. I saw a lot of issues with it. I couldn't give it 5 stars just because I loved it. Do I sometimes rate books higher because I enjoy the reading experience? Yes. Of course, not everything needs to be this critical, like, view on books. If you loved it, and you loved the reading experience, then 5-star it. I had enough issues with this that it did hinder my enjoyment of the reading experience and the reading in general. It's a 3-star read. It was a big, big bummer. Do I still have all of the books? Will I display them proudly? Yes. So that is all my disappointing reads for 2019. By no means are they bad books. They just didn't live up to what I wanted them to be. I'd love to know in a comment down below what yours was, and if any of these made your list as well, or if you love them, that's fine. We can chat about it in the comments. I do still have a stat video coming up soon. Not yet, but soon. And, but that's going to be like the end of my end of the year 2019 videos, with the exception of my stats video. Hope you guys have enjoyed the series. I loved looking back. I learned a lot about myself, about my reading tastes, and hopefully I can take that into 2020 and have a lot better reading. At least hopefully better luck with arcs. Who knows? But that's been all my disappointing reads. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Bye guys.